All right, so we're going to be covering chapter 24, Rhythmic Movement and Dance, and how we can make this adapted for individuals with disabilities. So there are three main types of dance that we're going to be discussing. So that's rhythmic movement, there's creative educational dance, and then also structured or pattern dance. So we'll be going through each one of those and just kind of breaking down how to better teach it and provide adaptations. So defining rhythmic movements, right? So this is a balance of contracting and expanding movements that are connected and repeated. So rhythmic movement is just having rhythm while moving. It could be as simple as walking, left foot, right foot, left foot, right foot, or inhaling, exhaling, clapping. So any type of movement and utilizing rhythm within that movement. So movements can be connected and repeated, and therefore by doing so, they create a rhythm. So when we look at creative educational dance, right, this is kind of a movement program that focuses on exploration of space, time, force. It might utilize some creative problem solving to figure out how to create a dance based upon specific stipulations that the students might need to make. And it allows students to really develop their own moves and dances and to really be able to infuse their creativity and uniqueness and individualism within movements associated with dance and rhythm. So check out this quick YouTube video. It shows just some students with disabilities that are doing some intro to dancing, more formal kind of ballet, within a studio. So when we look at defining structured dances, really it's this pattern or what we would call recreational dance. So it's composed of specific steps and usually has common formations that dancers move in and also common kind of figures or dance steps throughout. So we can think about cha-cha slide, cupid shuffle. Those are all structured dances. So rhythmic movements, where to begin, right? So I really think that each one of us has a rhythm within ourselves, which can be breathing or a heartbeat. And so really just having the students try to find their own internal rhythm is really a great way to start to think about rhythm and to think about beats and try to have them kind of breathe and utilize drumsticks or clap to their beat of their breath, or to just some music and try to have them figure out those different beats within the rhythm of a music. So when we look at rhythmic movement, right, it's really important that we identify that pulse or the underlying kind of beat to that music. And then we should discuss and talk about the tempo or the speed. So we could have music that's a lot quicker in pace and speed, and then music that is slower and how that adjusts and changes the pulse and also our movements. We can look at accent or emphasis of different beats. So typically within dancing, that first beat for that measure of 8 usually is emphasized. And so we can provide kind of accents within, very much like the offbeat is typically not emphasized, right? So it's usually the main beat is. And then we can look at rhythmic patterns and then begin to combine those rhythms, right? Combine those movements. So we can look at breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out. And then just adding clapping, and then stomping. Boom, 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 boom. Then back to breathing. Right? And so combining them. And then we can play around with the tempo and the pulse and even the emphasis, right? We could go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1. So really emphasize and change so that you really get the understanding of the beat. So some guidelines for when we progress through rhythmic movement is really to start with internal beats and then add in external beats. Provide opportunities to listen to that pulse and then start moving to the pulse. Good to start with non-locomotor movements, so staying in one place and then shifting to locomotor movements. And always start with like clapping, stomping, tapping, and then move to the movement of different body parts. So what are some suggestions for students with disabilities? One, it's through research been shown that peer tutor or cross-age peers can really work well to help modify, to provide prompting for dancing, really utilizing progression and teaching the steps over and over again can help engage and foster responses. Some students may need physical manipulation for passive movement and assistance. Provide opportunities to mirror active movement, so they're standing kind of across from someone and trying to replicate that movement. And also encourage original movements, right? We're not doing structured dance, so any type of movement really will work, and then we can try to get those movements to the beat. So when we look at that creative educational dance, right, this is when the elements of dance really come in. And so we start looking at the space, the time, the force, the body parts, and really provide them a structure of dance based upon elements for them to be able to create their own movements. So we're going to be looking at those concepts and how they relate to movement, how we can utilize different body parts and movement potential of those body parts, and then also looking at how to create dances to really solve movement problems, right? So different problems you could set up is, having to get from one point of the gym to the other and then have elements within or equipment that they need to interact with and making sure that they are providing different elements of the dance throughout their moving across the gym. So when we look at that, we can look at force as far as the energy that the movement may have, right? Are they swaying? Is it smooth? Is it sharp and sudden? Are they shaking? All right. Is the energy kind of controlled and tense, or does the energy flow and is very free? As far as the time, is it going to the pulse or rhythm of the music? Is it fast, slow? Are there accents or stress beats that they're utilizing? Are they emphasizing movements and then not emphasizing movements? And what kind of patterns are utilized throughout those rhythms? When we look at space, we can look at, are we moving our body in different levels, high, medium, or low? Are we utilizing self-space or general space? Are we interacting with other people? Are our sizes large or small? What direction are we moving in? What pathway are we moving in? Are we doing straight lines, diagonal, zigzag, spinning? So multiple different factors to help students really create and develop differences in their movement to rhythm. So 4 phases within that creative educational dance, right? Starting off with exploration and allowing the student to play around with the elements of space, time, force, and body. Then the teacher should present a problem, right? And describes kind of boundaries or elements that students need to meet within their dance. Then the student really creates and develops that dance based upon those boundaries. And then the students perform and respond to that performance. So it could be student individualized, or it could be a group of students kind of performing and then getting input and responses from the other students. So when we look at the continuum of movement elements, right, when we look in space, it can be very indirect and flowing through space, multiple different directions, or it could be very direct straight line. When we look at time and tempo, it could be very slow or very fast and sudden. And when we look at force within dance, it could be very light and floating compared to really very strong and direct when performing movements. And so allowing students to demonstrate these different spectrum of movements and play around with them is really important to increase and enhance creativity and motivation. The other area is structured dances, which is probably more so our go-to when it comes to teaching dance. But we should really look at different ones than what we've taught before. So more social dances like swing dance, waltz, or salsa, or international dances. And so structured dance is really specific steps that are performed in certain formations, typically done as a group of individuals. So the teaching progress, when we're looking at the process, when we're looking at teaching structured dance, is really making adaptations to movements based upon student needs. And again, figuring out that beat and rhythm of how quick that music is. So there's some apps that you can actually utilize, like the cha-cha slide, and actually slow down the music to a slower pace to help improve success and understanding of how to perform those movements. And then you can speed it back up to real time. So basic steps should be introduced. The teacher should face the same direction as the students and mirror them, and explore modifications that may be needed based upon their disability. So maybe they're only performing upper body. Maybe they're performing the activity and dance in a chair because of balance issues. Maybe they need additional prompting or gestures based upon vision or hearing loss. And then after basic steps are kind of taught, then move on to more difficult steps within that dance, and then continue to add steps in. So start with one step, chunk it together, teach it, practice it, practice it, practice it. Add in the harder parts of the steps to that dance part, and then add a new chunk to it. And then go back from the beginning, practice chunk 1 and chunk 2. Do it without music, then practice it with music. And also making sure that we're providing cues, visuals, or demonstrations as needed for success within that dance. So what are some questions you might ask yourself when we have to modify dances, right? 1, can the dance be shortened? So can we decrease the length of that dance? Can we repeat movements within that dance? Can steps that require balance be modified? Maybe instead of using their lower body, maybe their lower body stays stationary and they just do the upper body movements. Can the tempo be slowed, or movements be performed using twice as many counts? So instead of performing it to 1/8 count, they perform that movement to a 16 count. And can turns be modified? Because that sometimes makes it really difficult when the environment shifts. And so how can we adjust or adapt that? So this is a great video. It's actually from a Westchester Adapted Physical Activity minor graduate who's now an adapted PE teacher. And within this video, you're going to see prompting of the moves in the upper right. And then you're also going to see 4 different levels of performance of this dance. So definitely check out this video and scan the QR code to be able to access it. So in summary, rhythmic movement and dance are powerful, joyful content that really can help students with disabilities and without problem solve, be very creative and expressive, and also work on motor skills. We can work on skipping, jumping, hopping, pathways, personal space, tempo, which can help them on fitness and sport skills as well. So think about dance a little bit outside the box and challenge yourself to teach it, do it, and promote it within your program.